No one's giving away $100,000 a year for $10,000. I mean, so just do the math. And they're definitely not doing it for $997 or $47 either. So that's just a cautionary word when you see all these advertisements. It takes work. You have to develop skills. You have to find the right types of clients. Sure, there's programs and systems that will help with that, but the reality is you have to put in the work.
Hi, I'm Lennis Woods Mullins, and I love to help women to vibe, to be more vibrant, intuitive, beautiful, and empowered in midlife. So come on, let's vibe. I love to be able to tell women things that they can do to help them have a more positive midlife experience. And that goes all the way from not just their health, but the things that they're doing for their financial wellness. I have so many friends, once they retired, they realize that what was in the little piggy bank isn't going to go far enough. And so the question becomes, okay, what can I do, or what am I going to do? And no matter what you do, and I've been an entrepreneur now for 17 years, one of the things that you have to learn how to do is sell. And people say, well, that's a gift. Not everyone can do it, but that's not true. And our next guest is going to be talking about that particular thing, how to sell with dignity. And the things he talks about really could be applied to anyone at any stage of life. And I'm just so excited to have with us Harry Spaight. Harry, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
You did. Great job.
Okay. I forgot to ask you about that part. I'm so glad that I did. Welcome to the V.I.B.E Living Podcast. First of all, tell us a little bit about you and how you became such an expert when it comes to selling.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me, Linus. Hopefully we'll provide a bunch of value for your listeners. My journey has been a little bit different for many salespeople. Before I got into sales, I was selling something a little bit different. I was doing mission work. So I was selling a philosophical viewpoint on life. I didn't really look at it as sales, but it clearly was sales now that I understand what selling is. And from there, I got into business to business sales in a hyper competitive environment. But I started to use the principles I learned in the mission world, which were all about serving people, taking care of people, providing value for people, being servant minded. And that stuff worked, and I built a great career of it. Now I'm just sharing how small business owners can sell without the pushy, slimy tactics that are so prevalent that people want to avoid.
I struggled with the idea of sales myself. And I think a lot of it had to deal with the imposter syndrome, feeling like, am I really good enough to be selling, what it is I do, to ask for money for my services and all of that. And it took a little while for me to get there. I think a lot of people suffer from the imposter syndrome, but for midlife women in particular, there's a whole nother realm of imposter syndrome that can enter in that may not have before, because we worry about how we're perceived by society since we're older, supposedly, and do we still have value? So my first question is going to be, how can one overcome the imposter syndrome in general, especially when it comes to sales?
Yeah, the imposter syndrome is pretty prevalent, but you know who doesn't have imposter syndrome? Are imposters. Once I realized that the ones that have it shouldn't, and the ones that need to have it don't, I realized that, hey, we're just trying to serve people. We don't really have to worry. I mean, I know it's easy to say, but I had to get through it myself. I was saying things like, I'm not an author. And this is very common. We say, well, I'm not this or that because we're comparing ourselves to someone who's further down the road than we are. And the reality is we can provide value at no matter what stage we're in. And I remember listening to someone who's like a physician or something. And the reality is a physician who starts out is not going to have the skill sets that someone's been doing it for 15 or 20 years. But that doesn't mean they can't help and serve people and earn a nice living. and they continue to grow along the way. And that's true with all of us. So typically we feel like an imposter when we're starting out and we're comparing ourselves. So if we just compare ourselves to our past and see the progress we're making, I think it's much easier. And even though we still have little shades of it periodically, we can dismiss it and say, look, I'm here to help people. And if anyone wants to call me an imposter, let them call me that, but it just doesn't come up. No one's called
No,
me an imposter yet. Has anyone called you one, Linus?
no, it's all in our heads. It
Isn't
really
it?
is. And that made me think of something else when it comes to what's going on in our heads. Many times when we're just getting started with something and it's new, and now we're bringing in the idea of selling it and everything else, it's sometimes hard to get clear and to focus on the things that we want to say and want to do. Can you share some tips on how we can maintain some clarity and focus, especially when we're just beginning to start in the whole issue of selling whatever products or services that we want to produce?
Yeah. I think what you really want to do is get down what you're doing. Whatever it is, you want to have a clear, concise sentence or two maximum. So when someone asks you, what is it you do? That answer is very specific. I just asked someone this past weekend, I said, so what is it you do? And the person went, I don't even know where to begin. And you want that well rehearsed, because I can understand it. This is what I do to help people. But, if they were in a business setting and they wanted to earn someone's trust in business and saying, I don't know where to begin, or I hate that question, or I do so much, they say all of these things, just say, get it concise, a sentence or two, and say, I work with people to help them with, or I work with people so that they, and have a nice defined sentence. But you have to start somewhere. And instead of saying, I do like 87 different things, get one or two things down and work from there would be my suggestion. What's your thought on that?
I agree with you. It's interesting because one of the great things about being an entrepreneur is that you can call yourself whatever you want. And so therefore you have all these really interesting creative titles for people. But sometimes those titles, even though they're creative and great, it doesn't really say what you do. So leading with what you actually do and how you can help them is huge. I believe that something very successful for entrepreneurs that they can do, and I know it helps with sales, is to lead with service. Instead of thinking all the time about the sales piece and you got to sell this program or sell this product, lead for service. The service to figure out, how can I help you? What is it that you're in need of? Now, sometimes the person that you might be talking to may not need your services, but it's great to be able to have referrals, to be able to say, oh, I know such and such. And it's amazing how that comes back to you in other ways. I think sometimes we get so stressed out about, making the sale. So how can we as sales professionals or women starting businesses begin to manage that stress? What are some techniques that you use?
I love the question, first of all, because we're thinking that sales is supposed to happen quickly, and many find out later. They're judging themselves and they're saying things like, I'm not very good at sales, or I need to be a better closer. And they're having the first conversation with somebody thinking that they're going to turn them into a client in one conversation. And it just does not happen that way generally. Once in a blue moon, maybe, but it is so rare, you can't count on that. So understanding, like you said, is just continue to provide value for people, build trust, build the relationships, find out what they need, what your prospect or potential client needs, and serve them. Eventually, this sometimes it's going to take months and years for someone to say, Linus, what you've been saying over the past few years is finally hitting home with me. What does it look like to work with you? Versus you trying to close a person on the first or second conversation and say, would you like to work together? And then you start pushing people away because they're not ready. They're not saying that they have a real issue, and they're not looking to spend money to solve it. Until they figure those things out, my opinion is serve them, find out what they need, be of value for them. And when they connect problem, money, and you're the solution, that's when you have a real opportunity. What's your thoughts?
I agree with you. And, it's interesting because one of the things that I've noticed a lot, especially when this whole coaching thing got popular, when I first started, people were consultants. They're basically unemployed consultants. Yep. Okay. And then it changed a couple of years later, because that was back in 2008, 2009. Then over time, there are all these coaches, and one of the things that is just really is a pet peeve of mine are the coaches, the business coaches, let's say, out there saying that you can make, 5 figures a month, just do this, this, and this. And I quickly learned that a like does not equal $1 and a follow does not equal a client. It doesn't work that way. It's about planting seeds and being of service and being consistent and having a sense of integrity. But you know what? Sometimes, especially when you're getting started, it's hard to stay inspired, encouraged, and motivated because the money's not coming in the way you thought it was going to be. So what have you done, and what do you advise others to do to maintain their motivation and their inspiration?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is how you feed your mind. And if you're just continuing to be frustrated and look at what you just described, these advertisements and pitches that we see on social media, where you're going to earn all kinds of money, it's not that easy. I mean, if it only costs $10,000 to earn $10,000 a month, I'm signing up. No one's giving away $100,000 a year for $10,000. I mean, so just do the math. And they're definitely not doing it for $997 or $47 either. So that's just a cautionary word when you see all these advertisements. It takes work. You have to develop skills. You have to find the right types of clients. Sure, there's programs and systems that will help with that, but the reality is you have to put in the work. So to help you along the journey is that you have to feed your mind with, in my opinion, is with positivity. I'm a huge believer in that we have to envision what we want and just work towards that. And in the meantime, we have to have peace of mind and gratitude so that we're not needy. Once we start showing people that we're needy, it's over for that opportunity.
Yeah, that energy, they pick up on that energy, and you never want to get to that place. That's why it's a great thing to have a plan in place, always with the idea that this is probably going to take a little bit longer than what you've heard. And you know what, for me, I always go back to my why. Why am I getting this in the first place? That's why it's so important to pursue whatever it is you want to do that you have a passion for, that you're really excited about. If you're excited about purple widgets and then you come across an opportunity to get into a network marketing or something like that for orange widgets, that may not be the best choice for you. Now, if the network marketing opportunity is purple widgets, well, maybe so. But staying true to yourself and your passions, I think is very important. I, probably at least once or twice a day, go back to remembering my why. Why am I doing this?
Right.
Because, and the other thing too, I've learned from a self-care perspective, and this is really important. I want to get your thoughts on this. When I transferred from corporate America to entrepreneurism, I had no friends that were really entrepreneurs. I mean, they might have sold Mary Kay or Avon or something, but they still have their full-time job. Mm-hmm. I left my 6-figure full-time job at the age of 51, almost 17 years ago, and open up this business. So when I began, sharing with my friends and stuff, they were like, deer in the headlights. What? What are you talking about? You did what? And it wasn't that they weren't being supportive. They were just a little bit concerned that I'd lost my marbles. Right. Here I am, leaving corporate America, I got kids getting ready to go to college, brand new home, all these things, right? But so I learned that why I love my friends, and they're still my friends this day, I had to find another tribe that could kind of relate to the crazy things that I'm doing to begin my business. How important is that when it comes to, finding your tribe, and how do you find them?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, 100% agree. And what you did is not for everybody. So if
So
you're listening to that, what Linus just said, and you feel like, well, you have to do the same, there are people that do it as a side hustle first and gradually get into their business, and everyone's different. So don't judge yourself based on what others do. But I just spoke to another woman this past weekend who did the similar thing, and she was close to hitting that 20-year mark where she would have been taken care of, and people thought she was nuts, but she was following her passion, and you can't judge that. And so, to answer your question, you have to find people that support you on that, because people will wear you down. I mean, this is something I learned from the mission world years ago, is that you want to be around people that are similarly minded, or otherwise you're going to be pulled in different directions. You're going to be second and third guessing. You're going to get discouraged, versus having people there saying, "You're doing great, Linus. Keep going, right? I'm here for you. Is there
right,
anything I can do to help you in your journey? Is there any recommendations or referrals I can give you, or people you need to talk to? Let me know what's going on. Keep me posted," right? You have those people in your life, and it's like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing. And these become, I mean, I told my wife recently, it's like, I've got more friends virtually that are supportive than, no offense to the physical friends in person, but it's just a different world now. People that you grew up with are not necessarily thinking, entrepreneurialism. They're not thinking off being an author. They're thinking, how do I retire? Right. And
right.
that's just not my
What
jam.
cruise am I going on next?
Yeah, exactly. It does not excite me. So it's like, it's okay. You lose, your friends are still there, but you make new friends, and it's there. Now you're supporting each other. And I think it's a great way to live. Well, does that
That's
answer your
absolutely
question?
right. I agree with you. You did. And I think when you become an entrepreneur in midlife in particular, you have to have a certain level of vulnerability.
Mm,
You have to kind of allow yourself to be open to new experiences and new things. Because I'm here to tell you, it is different. And I agree with you. I have a lot of friends virtually, In fact, I consider you now my new virtual friend. We met, on a
exactly.
virtual platform. It was
Yeah.
crazy. We
Yeah.
were in a room on Clubhouse. And there was something that you said that just resonated with me. And I said, gee, I want him to be on my podcast. I know he's in sales. He trains people how to sell, but you had this energy and you had this light that I wanted to share with my audience. And you happen to be a midlife person. And so many people these days are talking about, and these are not people who are younger. Many times these are older people who let their age hold them back from doing things.
Yeah.
And I found you delightful and energetic, and you were up on the technology because we talked about that. And I just love that. How do you stay relevant? How do you stay motivated to keep learning new things?
Yeah, you just kind of gave me the chills on that. I just gave a speech on that you're not too old to pursue your dream. And so many people, and I said the same thing, by the way. I said, I'm too old to do anything new. My best years are behind me. I had all of this negative self-talk going on. And then I started to really work on myself, because there's too much life. I mean, I was in my late 50s, and I said, there's just too much life to be doing a countdown towards old age, retirement and old age. And, the inevitable is death. And it's like, am I going to just blow whatever number of years we made? So I started to do some self work, which included journaling, meditation, doing a lot of reading, and realized that, hey, I've got plenty to offer. And this is where I think a lot of people midlife miss an opportunity, is because you've accumulated so much experience and knowledge in your field or in your family, or there's expertise that you have inside of you. Now, is there a way to turn that into a side hustle or a business? Or the worst case is that you start sharing it with other people, and you now find a whole new purpose in your life, versus, I'm just going to sit back and wait until whatever, I can collect Social Security. It's just like, hello, we don't want to postpone our life for a maybe life down the road. If we get hit by a bus and we were postponing our life for better years down the road, to me, it makes no sense. So we want to take advantage of every day we have And if you're not sure about this, you got to do the self work. So whether it be meditation and journaling and researching and saying who else in my age bracket has made changes, and you'll find there's a lot of us that have
There's a lot.
pursued
I
this,
found
like
that
us
too.
too, and many others. You
Yeah. In
go.
fact, it's more of a trend over the
Yeah.
last few years, I've noticed. In fact, I didn't realize this, but maybe intuitively I did. I don't know. I was so naive. I didn't even know what social media was. I was so excited when I found out about Facebook back in 2008. And, when the kids got home from school, I told them about it. And they're like, Mom, that's been around for a couple of years. That's no big. That's like, what? And then I look back at that now and I'm thinking, oh my God, what were they posting on Facebook back then that I didn't know about, But, it's interesting. I jumped into it full force because I was just fascinated by the technology of it. And I was not necessarily that much of a technical person, but I had been around technology in my career because I got my first laptop in 1992, I think it was, because I traveled a lot.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I remember my boss giving me this laptop. He says, here, fool around with this and see if you can get it to work. Let me know what you think about it. I was on my way to Hawaii. He said, and, hook up. And I was like, what? I had no idea. I couldn't even figure out how to sign it on. That was a disaster.
Yeah.
But it oriented me to the
Yeah.
idea that there's a technology that was out there. And, I think as we age, the learning piece is so important. But there are other pieces, too, that I think are important when it comes to sales or running your own business. What are some of the things that you do just to keep yourself healthy and well to be able to be successful in your business?
Yeah. Okay. So you just raised such a great question about the technology. If I could just touch on that real
Yes.
quick, is we all can keep learning. So if we say we're too old to learn, we're lying to ourselves. That we now have a fixed mindset. So we want to explore that. And there's a great book out there. And if you look it up, it's Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck. And even if you look at videos on it, you'll see that your thinking is mistaken, that we're not too old to learn. And just as you said, Linus, I mean, it helps us. The more we learn, the more it helps our brain, which is what we want, our healthy brains as we age. So what do I do personally is like, I feel like you have to eat right, and what everyone's viewpoint of eating right may be a little bit different than mine, but I feel like I'm in pretty good shape. I want to be up early. I want to spend some time reading every day. I want to spend some time walking or getting on the bike or doing push-ups. But so it's mind and body, and then of course spirit is very valuable because just with the ups and downs in life you want to have in business, especially when you're starting out, is that you want to have a good attitude, and having a sense of spirit and gratitude, it goes a long way with that as well. What about you?
Well, I definitely believe in movement every day. That's imperative. Some days you fall short, but that can be the goal, is to move, whatever that means for you. I think that as we get older, we want to be careful and not do a lot of high impact. Low impact actually is more impactful for people who are older. For women in particular, going hard, like, with cardio and stuff like that, can sometimes have the opposite effect because it raises your cortisol level. So I think in all these things, when it comes to fitness and what to eat and everything else, I think it's important to consult a professional to find out what it is that you should be doing, and then make some decisions on what will work best for you. Because I think everybody's different. I've never been one to say, oh, no, don't ever eat meat. Well, some people need that. I'm not a meat eater, but I can understand why some people might. Some folks, prefer to do the yoga and not the Pilates. Others want to do kickboxing. Well, that's fine. Whatever you enjoy that makes you feel good and motivated and inspired, I think is really important to do as an entrepreneur. In fact, on your to-do list should be a section of time for you to move and do something having to do with getting away from the computer, back away from the computer, get up, walk, and go outside as long as it's not inclement weather. Get some fresh air, get some sunshine. And it's amazing how, first of all, your happy hormones start going, but also your point of view begins to change. That's where I get my biggest ideas, is when I'm on my walk. I mean, that's where I get my biggest ones. But, everybody's different. But I did want to ask you, talking about everybody's different. It's funny because most people would think, talking to me, that I am an extrovert. But actually, over the years, especially as I've been working from home a lot, I've become more introverted. I am fine being by myself for days at a time. I live with my husband, but we're sometimes we come together like for dinner and bedtime or whatever, and he's doing his
Mhm.
thing and I'm doing my thing.
Yeah.
I love my private time.
Mhm.
But and some people might think, well, if you're an introvert or if you're too shy, you could never succeed in sales or in business. But how can shy people and introverted people succeed? What kind of advice do you give them?
Yeah, so I speak a similar language as you on the introvert. I actually score higher as an introvert than I do as an extrovert, but
Wow.
I put myself out. So it's authentic, but sometimes you have to act like you're an actor to some degree, right? You have, like, if you're not feeling great, you can't show that to people when you're in business. You can't be griping and moaning about your life and how you're not feeling well to potential clients. Nobody wants to hear that. So you have to up your game on those types of days. And I've looked at it as my alter ego. We all have it inside of us. It's like a growth mindset, in my opinion. So when I first got into sales, I knew that I was like on stage. So I had to up the game, up the performance level, and recognizing that I'm not always like that, but because there are certain people that don't want that either, which is also part of the human psychology. When you can reflect on what the other person is like, and you can say, if they're low key, I'm going to be low key, right? Your business
Mhm.
is vibe, right? If someone's sending off a vibration that is lower key, you want to adjust to that. If they're high energy and you're low key, they're going to look at you like you're a deadbeat. So people want to be around people that are similar to them generally. No hard and fast rules, but that's the way we are. So if someone's high energy, I'm going to up my game. So it's
Mhm.
just recognizing through awareness, and we all have it. We all get excited over something. I mean, I can't say all, but virtually everyone, whether it
Most
be,
people do, yeah, right.
yeah. So yeah, so that's it. Kind of is just kind of following along what the mood is, and recognize that people who are introverted can succeed because we're servant minded. We're not the loudest person in the room. We don't always need to have the stage. And so we can really let the other person do the majority of the talking, and that works perfectly in sales.
And that's absolutely true. Well, I know we're getting close to our time, but I wanted to find out, first of all, what's going on in the world of Harry Spaight. What do you have going on? I know that your information is on the show page in terms of all your social media handles and your website and all that, but what's coming up for you?
Yeah, what's coming up for me is speaking. I love the opportunities. I just shared the stage with some great people out in Chicago. And the theme was, you're not too old to pursue your dream. And
I
so
love
that
it.
topic is something that I think works perfectly with your audience. And that if you are thinking you're too old, let's have a conversation. And I will remind you there's still plenty of life left in you.
Absolutely. Talking to Harry was so funny when we connected. I was on a walk, I believe, and I was nearing the end of my walk. But talking to Harry, I added an extra 2 miles just talking to him. So it was, he's that kind of person, easy to talk to, full of knowledge. Harry, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us today. It's been wonderful having you here.
It's been a blast, Linus. Thank you so much for your hospitality.
Absolutely. And thank you to all of you for listening. Now, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. If you liked this podcast, and I believe you do, please like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast. Go ahead and share it with others who want to find out more about Vibe Living. Remember, vibing is all about being vibrant, intuitive, beautiful, and empowered in midlife. And that is my goal for all of you, to be able to learn more and more about ways that you can vibe. Have a fantastic day, everybody. And don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Vibe Living Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and share this podcast. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody.